They told us progress made homes warmer, cheaper, smarter. But for thousands of years, people with no gas lines, no smart thermostats, and, no monthly bills were pulling off something modern heating still struggles to do: stay warm efficiently. Today, we're breaking down the ancient firewood rule that quietly embarrassed modern heating systems long before electricity ever showed up. And once you hear it, you just can't unlearn it. Welcome back to Ancient Tactics. The rule modern heating doesn't want you to know. Here's the rule, straight to the point. Heat was measured by how long firewood lasted, not how hot the fire burned. Ancient households didn't aim for roaring flames. They aimed for controlled survival. Every stick of wood had to earn its keep. If it burned fast and flashy, it was waste. If it burned slow and steady, it was wealth. That mindset alone flips modern heating on its head. Today, we're sold the idea that instant heat equals comfort. Ancient people knew better. They understood that the goal wasn't heat spikes, it was heat endurance. Hours of warmth from minimal fuel. Once you understand that, everything else they did suddenly makes sense. In the ancient world, firewood wasn't just something you tossed into a fireplace. It was a stored resource, counted, stacked, protected, and, well, planned months in advance. In colder regions, households calculated winter survival based on how much wood they had cured, dried, and reserved. Green wood was nearly useless. It smoked, burned unevenly, and wasted energy boiling off moisture. So ancient builders and households followed a strict rule. Firewood had to be dried for months, sometimes over a year, before it ever touched a flame. That single practice alone doubled usable heat output compared to burning fresh wood. Modern heating systems burn fuel instantly and invisibly. You never see the waste. Ancient people saw it every night in the fire pit. Waste meant cold mornings. Ancient heating wasn't really about flames, you know. It was about mass, stone, clay, brick, earth. All these materials would absorb heat slowly, and then, well, release it even more slowly. A fire would burn for just a short window, but the warmth, it lasted all night. This is where the firewood rule truly shines. You're not feeding the fire just to heat the air. You're feeding it to heat the structure itself. Walls, floors, benches, ovens. Once those were warm, the fire could die down. But the house, it stayed warm anyway. Now compare that to modern forced air systems. The heat stops and, well, the house cools instantly. Ancient homes just didn't have that problem because they weren't heating air. They were heating matter. Archaeological evidence shows that actually many ancient homes used fires no larger than what we'd consider inadequate today. Yet somehow they survived those brutal winters. How? Fire placement and enclosure. Fires were set low, you know, near the ground, often partially enclosed. Now heat naturally rises, but ancient builders guided it through stone channels, walls and floors before it escaped. Some systems even funneled heat through thick masonry before venting smoke outside. The firewood rule demanded efficiency. Every single flame had a job. If heat escaped straight up and out, well, that was considered bad design. Ancient heating systems were really less about burning and more about trapping. World War II quietly proved the ancients right. During World War II, fuel shortages forced millions to rethink heating. Governments issued manuals teaching civilians how to heat homes with minimal fuel. And guess what those guides emphasized? Smaller fires, dried fuel, heat retention, closing rooms, heating mass, not space. Suddenly, modern societies rediscovered ancient logic. People blocked unused rooms, cooked near heat sources, and relied on residual warmth instead of constant burning. Fuel consumption dropped dramatically. It wasn't innovation, it was rediscovery. So, modern heating isn't inefficient by accident. It's actually designed for convenience and, well, dependency. You don't manage fuel, you don't see consumption, you don't control loss, you just pay. Ancient systems, on the other hand, forced awareness. You felt waste immediately. Burn too hot tonight, freeze tomorrow. That accountability, it created smarter heating behavior. The Firewood rule, honestly, trained discipline. It rewarded patience. It punished excess. Modern systems, well, they reward neither. Even today, homes that use wood stoves, masonry heaters, or passive heat designs consistently use less energy overall. The principle hasn't changed. Slow heat wins. Stored heat wins. Controlled burn wins. Ancient builders oriented homes towards sunlight, thickened walls on cold sides, minimized openings and centralized heat sources. Firewood was precious, so design compensated. Modern construction often ignores this, then sells technology to fix the problem it created. You know, calling ancient heating primitive really misses the point. These systems evolved through generations of trial and error. If something wasted wood, it disappeared. But if it worked, it spread. The Firewood rule was, well, brutal but effective. Burn slow or suffer later. That kind of pressure created designs that modern engineers still study today. Efficiency wasn't just a buzzword, it was survival. Energy costs rise, power grids fail, fuel prices spike. Suddenly, ancient heating principles don't sound old, they sound smart. You don't need to live in the past to learn from it. The Firewood rule teaches a mindset. Heat what matters. Store warmth. Respect fuel. Design for endurance, not bursts. That lesson alone can change how you see heating forever. You know, the biggest myth of modern life is that newer always means better. Ancient heating didn't disappear because it failed. It disappeared because convenience replaced awareness. But honestly, physics never changed. Heat still behaves the same way. Wood still burns the same way. And waste still costs you, whether you see it or not. Ancient tactics weren't about comfort alone. They were about control. And, well, control is something modern heating quietly took away. If this opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to Ancient Tactics, share this with someone who still thinks ancient people were guessing, and stay tuned, because the past solved problems we're still paying for today.